Hello. This video is on how to stop China from attacking Taiwan. It is a product of less than 10 hours of brainstorming. I developed this entire file in basically one day's work, less than 10 hours. Uh, First of all, unlike the bogus Chinese threat of cutting off maritime traffic in the South China Sea and of controlling all the resources in the South China Sea, which in earlier lectures I had proven to be totally bogus, although no one retains a single bit of my analysis. In this case, however, I believe China's threat to take Taiwan should be taken seriously. All right, so the first thing I want to do is examine China's possible motives for taking Taiwan. All right. First possible motive is historic justification. Well, China lacks a historic justification for taking Taiwan because it was never part of communist China. No part of the history was a part of communist China. So, in the early 17th century, Taiwan was under Spanish or Portuguese control, uh, and then Dutch control, and then Ming Dynasty for a short time, then Qing Dynasty. Then after the Sino-Japanese War, Japan took control of Taiwan up until the end of World War II, and then control of Taiwan transferred over to the Republic of China, which was the Kuomintang, or the Republic of China. All right. Now, at best, China may have some sort of vague nationalistic motive like, oh, one China, unified China. All right. As far as economic motive, Taiwan's GDP is less than $1 trillion. It's not that big, right? 0.69 trillion, less than a trillion. And if there's a war in Taiwan to take Taiwan, Taiwan's GDP will be devastated, as well as its urban centers, as well as its industries, right? Taiwan is the seventh largest exporting nation in Asia, which is nothing to sneeze at. Resources, Taiwan doesn't have much resources. The country is relatively resource poor with only small mining and agriculture sectors and remains a net food and energy exporter, however. Taiwan is relatively resource poor. Some of its major natural resources include gold, copper, coal, petroleum, natural gas, marble. Right? Not a whole bunch of it. All right. Industrial base. Now, Taiwan's early industrialization emphasized light basic manufacturing like simple appliances, toasters, whatever, footwear, athletic equipment. This was followed by semiconductors and electronic equipment for radios, TVs, computers. By the mid 1980s, Taiwan became one of the world's largest manufacturers of computers and computer peripherals and is currently the largest manufacturer of computer chips in the world. And that's nothing to sneeze at, also. However, it should be said that this, even though this is substantial, again, all of this will be destroyed in a war. And Taiwan must ensure that it is destroyed before being captured. All right? Almost like scuttling a ship to prevent capture. All right. Now, another possible reason, which I think could be possible, is China is pushing this to boost the military industrial complex. I mean, this is all hypothetical. I don't know for sure, right? But Keynesian economics does work. Demand side economics, fiscal policy, all right? I believe it's possible. Does China need it? Well, China's growth has slowed considerably from double digits. Now it's roughly hovering around 6%, or maybe worse with COVID. China's Evergrande housing crisis bubble can be worse than the 2008 U.S. crisis, with 30% of China's GDP at risk. So this is a big threat to China, right? Maybe they need the military-industrial complex as a backup. So either as a Keynesian substitute or a backup. Either way, it is possible that China's threat to invade Taiwan could be total bullshit. But that is not certain. So the threat of China invading Taiwan must be taken seriously. All right. All right, so now how is Taiwan going to defend itself? I believe deterrence is the key, preventing China from taking the leap and attacking in the first place, right? And this means making sure China knows that the cost will be prohibitively high. And there are many ways of doing this. I'm going to go through a whole list of ways of doing this. One way is through alliances or treaties. Allies are force multipliers, which increase the cost of war. And this is especially important to Taiwan because Taiwan is very resource limited with a small economy, a small revenue stream. It can only purchase so much weapons and so forth, right? It can never match China, ship for ship, plane for plane, tank for tank, and so forth. Taiwan could make treaties. That's alliances. Now, way back in 1955, under the Eisenhower administration, USA signed a mutual defense treaty with Taiwan in response to China's threats to invade some Taiwanese islands off the coast of China, right along the coast, Matsu and Quemoy, a group of islands. In response to USSR's invasion of Afghanistan in 1979, President Carter had a big shift. He replaced the treaty, this mutual defense treaty, with the Taiwanese Relations Act in order to, decrease tension with China, right? To align China alongside the U.S. against USSR, right? So Carter was playing China against USSR. Now, if the USA were to sign a new mutual defense treaty with Taiwan, right, would that likely push China closer in alliance with Russia? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I haven't really, thought that through. Russia has border disputes with China, so they're fighting with China already. There's long border disputes, right? However, China is one of Russia's big consumers of hydrocarbons, oil and gas. Nowhere near as big as Europe. Europe is its biggest by far. But China is increasing in purchase of Russian natural gas and oil. But I think the possibility of a Russia-China alliance should be gamed out. All right? But what I mean by gamed out is, basically you have people use your resources. Like the Biden administration uses resources, uses intelligence agencies, uses military, right, experts, and military leadership to game out what's going to happen, figure out what's going to happen, play it out, have people play different roles and so forth. Right. One thing the Biden administration I don't think does too well. They got to do a better job at that. Game things out. Other nations could sign mutual defense treaties with Taiwan, like Japan. All right. We'll talk about Japan more in a second here. Sanctions increase costs. So I would do this. Right. If you're nations with major economic power like USA or economic union, or major Asian nations like Japan, South Korea, India, right, or Australia. India would be a big ally here, right? They don't want an expansive, aggressive China, especially with the border disputes with China already, right? What these countries do is they publicize, hey, you do this, these are the sanctions we're going to hit you with. And you could give estimated costs, exactly how much it's going to cost China. Show them this is going to be cost ineffective because they're going to get hurt through this. So that's another potential cost. Oh, I'm sorry. Where'd I go here? Major power statements of commitment to defend Taiwan. So if you don't have treaties, at least make a statement that you're committed to defend Taiwan, right? USA, Japan, UK, France, Australia. Okay, maybe India. So here's why Japan would be interested. Okay, here's China, here's Japan, here's the islands. I forget the name of this island. This is Honshu, this is Kyushu down here, lower island. These are the Ryukyus down here. And Japan's islands goes all the way up to the border of Taiwan. These are all Japanese islands. There's Okinawa, right? These islands here. So really, Taiwan is Japan's first line of defense, right? And the disputed islands between Taiwan and Japan are somewhere around here, right, in the East China Sea. So the idea is you wanted to avoid a Munich Agreement scenario, right? In essence, you want to avoid encouraging China to take more. You want to draw a red line here. Don't give them Taiwan, right? Avoid setting a precedent that threatens peace and security in the entire region. All right. So statements of commitment by political leaders of major powers sending signals that Taiwan is a red line. I kind of said that already. Conduct joint military operations between the militaries of major powers and Taiwan, like U.S. Navy combined with Taiwanese Navy, so forth, or Air Force, right? Station tripwire foreign forces in Taiwan, like the 1,000-man forces the U.S. have in Baltic nations, right? I believe also in Poland, right? So the idea is you have a relatively small force, 1,000-man force is half a regiment, right? What are you going to do with half a regiment? It is totally non-offensive, right? However, it's there to get bloody. Honestly, that's what I believe. Right? You attack, you're going to get these guys bloody. You get these guys bloody, all hell's going to come down on your head from the USA. Foreign special forces advisors in Taiwan training Taiwanese soldiers, right? They're almost like the tripwire forces. It's also a sign of commitment to Taiwanese military. Then you want to practice proxy war support, right? After the war is going on, even if we don't get directly involved in the war, we're going to give proxy war support to bleed China dry as much as we can, right? Help the Taiwanese take it to China, right? Help them hold out. Make it a long, drawn-out, dragged-out war that's bloody, right? Costly. Perhaps even practice logistical support. So I'm thinking you could practice logistical supply, right? Develop the means, right, to transport weapons, munitions, other war materials, food, whatever, anything they need to fight a war, right, to the Taiwanese to keep them in the fight and to bleed China. So you practice how to do this. You develop the mechanisms needed to do this, right? However you're going to deliver this, whether it's going to be air or ship delivered. All right. I would practice a big, rapid delivery of a well-thought-out package of weapons in the event of an aggressive Chinese buildup in preparation for an amphibious assault, right? This would be like the Cuban Missile Crisis in reverse, because U.S. signaled possible intention of invading Cuba through the practice of war plans in the summer of 1962. And that was a key reason why Cuba and Soviet Union got together and installed missiles. They saw it as deterrence, right? Americans saw it totally differently, but they didn't know what the hell we were doing, right? So a Chinese preparation for a big amphibious assault cannot be hidden, especially from satellites. The buildup takes around 6 months and involves big movement of equipment, weapons, manpower, and major aggregation, collection of ships, right? Staging of ships. I believe the USA should have a pre-planned package of weapon support that can be rapidly delivered to Taiwan to confront an imminent invasion. Delivery and handover of the Taiwanese forces can be practiced annually. Have a once-a-year annual practice, right? To ensure rapid transfer and effective Taiwanese deployment and utilization of these weapons. They know exactly where they're going to deploy them, right? And so forth. And have options to be like a shell game so that China cannot use their intelligence to know exactly where they're going to be deployed, right? You have multiple places where you can deploy them. All right. Weapon systems should include, so I'll say that shell game. Weapon systems should include mobile artillery, rocket artillery, and anti-aircraft batteries like Patriot missiles, tanks, shoulder-fire SAMs, surface air missiles, even aircraft, right? And one thing I'm thinking is we can spare F-16s, all right, in a pinch. There's 490 Air National Guard F-16s, which are not critical to our defense, right? Our national defense, right? We can give a bunch of them in a pinch. So Taiwan has significant weaknesses, for example, in anti-aircraft missile batteries, right? This is something that we can really beef them up here. A key weapon system would be hypersonic missiles that target Taiwanese dams. I would develop, in conjunction with Taiwan, whoever, Hughes, Raytheon, or Martin Marietta, one of the companies, right? Develop a hypersonic missile that can be easily modified to target China's dams, right? You whack some dams, you're doing some major damage. We'll talk about that in a second, right? These hypersonic missiles, they travel at Mach 5 or greater, right? So this is kind of a joke here, but I'm saying the Taiwanese could even call it the Speed Racer missile, like Mach 5. That car is fabulous. All right, I'm just joking. All right, hitting a dam at Mach 5 would impart massive kinetic energy even without a warhead, right? Plus you add the warhead. Blow up a dam. All right, we'll talk about what could happen if you blow up a dam in a second. People can imagine that already, I'm sure. The U.S. should provide permanent base simulator pods so that Taiwanese forces can constantly train. Even though they don't have the weapons on hand, they're constantly training to make sure that they're proficient as soon as they get these weapons, right? Simulator pods are just as good as weapons use these days. Very realistic. The weapons would be provided on a buy now, pay later basis with Marshall Plan-like low interest rates, right? We'll make money. We'll make money off this war. USA will make money off this war. Low interest rates, payments come out in a long time, but U.S. will make money off this war. Slash and burn. Taiwan leaves nothing for the Chinese, right? Plus, the U.S. will help rebuild Taiwan with a new Marshall Plan. We'll talk about Marshall Plan again, give you a little bit a better insight into what the Marshall Plan was all about. It should be publicized that an attempted PRC invasion of Taiwan would only benefit the USA at the expense of China. It should be publicized that a PRC invasion of Taiwan would serve as the best U.S. opportunity to undercut China's economic expansion, especially cut into their, transportation commercial expansion routes, knitting together a new Silk Road and belt, the whole new Belt and Road thing, right? Which knits together a whole bunch of countries, integrating them with the China's economy, right? That can be targeted. It's vulnerable. China's high-value targets will be targeted and destroyed. Belt and Road Initiative, worldwide commerce, spread throughout the world. There's ships going throughout the world. Hit them at the most vulnerable points, unexpected points. Economic infrastructure, energy sectors, transportation, banking, right? We'll talk more about details, how to get these. Any destruction to Taiwan will be supported by USA Marshall Plan, like reconstruction. So whatever's destroyed in Taiwan will be assisted by U.S. Marshall Plan reconstruction, possibly also loans by other nations like Japan, whatever, right? In the form of low interest loans, which will be an economic boon to U.S. companies, just like post-World War II, right? Now, most people have no idea what the Marshall Plan is all about, honestly, But for those people who do, right, most people who know anything about the Marshall Plan will think of it as either largesse, which is generosity, right? Oh, U.S. is being generous. Or two, a counter to Soviet communist expansion, all right? Because in the wake of World War II, with Europe all busted up, their economy destroyed, people poor, poverty, USA thought that made Europe vulnerable to the influences of communism, whole socialism crap, right? So this is to help them get back on their feet economically, industrially, right away, right? But And this is something that Milton Friedman said, right? Famous economist, University of Chicago. Most don't realize how the Marshall Plan was one, a big moneymaker for U.S. companies, right? Especially given the fact that after World War II, the only country who had its industrial infrastructure untouched by the war was USA, right? We can manufacture all the machinery they need. We can manufacture all the equipment they need, all the transportation stuff they need, right? And we give them loans, low interest loans. We make money off of that too, right? So it was a big money maker for U.S. companies because what did they buy with it? U.S. stuff. It helped their companies. Plus, it was a means of sustaining the U.S. economy amid the industrial contraction, which was an economic collapse after World War II. With the end of World War II, defense contracts were slashed big time. What did our economy do? Our economy contracted rapidly. It was, I believe it was 1945 or 6. It was like a 12% decrease in their GDP. That's massive. 12% hack, right? I mean, that's like Great Depression stuff, honestly. All right. So it helps sustain our economy, right, with the end of the war. So an attempted invasion of Taiwan will only weaken China, setting back its commercial expansion plans while strengthening and prospering the USA. Right? If you let China know this, like, man, it's gonna benefit us, you idiots. Right? Chinese invasion of Taiwan poses a potential big win-win for USA. Weaken China, make USA strong. Adverse economic impact, deprivation, could fuel public anger at the war, which would likely affect China's domestic politics, possibly forcing a change in leadership. So, if you whack China's economy bad and people feel the pinch, people are struggling, right? Because of the war, China's economy is whacked. And I'll show you how you can whack China's economy, right? Therefore, make the war costly to China economically as much as possible. And Taiwan can do that more effectively than defending Taiwan. China's past policy of single child, right? The population was too big, so for many years they had a policy, you can only have one child, right? So this could piss off parents. If their only child is being sent off to die in a war without a defensive justification, that could really piss off their parents. Even if their kid doesn't die, but the threat of his kid dying, right? And when they start coming back in body bags in large numbers, there could be some domestic political backlash, right? Multiple layers of defense must be designed to ensure a bloody, costly war for China, so that any victory will be a Pyrrhic victory and face a long, drawn-out insurgency and proxy war, which will continue to bleed China and drain their purse. And even thereafter, you have exiled groups conduct terrorist attacks throughout the world against China's assets. Even if China takes Taiwan, you continue the fight. So multiple areas of defense. I'm talking about layers. The first layer of defense is going to be to defend against a first strike. And that's coming. It's obvious. If China's going to try an invasion, the bulk of it's going to come through amphibious, because that's the only means of transporting a large amount of heavy equipment. Air assaults are limited in the environment and mass that can be carried. All right. So the first thing will be a surprise attack, first strike, the missiles coming in, try to take out Taiwanese defenses, followed by air assault, right? Which will try to take out other key targets, right? To prevent this, you can harden, protect defensive assets, right? Harden electronically, harden physically against attack. Ensure competent and survivable early warning systems, electronic warfare impervious. Major powers like USA could provide early warning support, including satellite intel. All right. I mean, we're going to see long before, many months in advance before they try this, that they're building up for this. Just like, for example, right now, right? Everyone knows that Russia has forces built up on the Crimea border, right? That's being hyped up. Who knows what that's for? Probably more defensive than anything. Russia will be stupid. I'm not going to get into the whole Russia thing. All right, more than adequate defensive weapons established, especially against missiles and aircraft, which they do not have. This is a Taiwanese weakness here. That's why this should be a big part of that rapid supply package, right? U.S. should get this rapid supply package ready right now, right? Defend against air assault, limited heavy lift capacity, but rapid attack at key targets, just like D-Day. Taking key road crossings, taking key bridges, so forth. Right? You want to block counterattack. You want to block resupply, so forth. Right? Things like that. Right? Take out key defensive assets. They'll try to take out key defensive assets, maybe even air bases. Right? Okay. Defend amphibious assault, which will be the primary assault. Sink as much as possible in Taiwan Strait. That's the main goal. Drown all the damn Chinese soldiers, before they hit the beach. All right, and then destroy Chinese forces on the beach. Okay, so these are the two most vulnerable points. This is where China forces are most vulnerable as they're coming across the Taiwan Straits, right, which are shallow. But 200 feet deep, that's plenty of depth to drown in, right? Destroy Chinese forces on the beaches. All right. So then you're going to have conventional open land warfare, but I'm saying there's not much, because if you look at population density map, this is not geographical topographical. This is population density. Most populated is a city here. Here's another city here. It looks like a city here. But you see that there's some coastal areas here that are kind of sparsely populated, right? I'm willing to bet they're still kind of urban centers, more like, they're not rural areas like in America, but they're less dense, maybe suburban areas, right? So this could be kind of conventional open land warfare, but it's going to be somewhat urban too, right? Right, so there's not going to be much of that. Right away, you're going into urban areas, and you got to go for the main population centers, right? That's going to devolve the conflict into urban guerrilla warfare. So urban guerrilla warfare. So you cut into China. You make it bleed at every point. First strike, air assault, amphibious assault on the beaches, conventional open land, then in the cities, right? Fall back into cities, but have cities pre-planned to be hives of urban guerrilla warfare. Key battle points, ambush points, have mines, have maps and plans to plant mines, right? Booby traps, caches for weapons and munitions, further supply means, how to have underground means of resupply, and routes should be identified and mapped out in advance and practiced. All this stuff practiced. And then, if it goes beyond that, you withdraw into the mountains. So if you look at the map here, this population, the reason why this is not a low-density population is because they're all mountains. All this is mountain area. All right? Well, you fall back into the mountains. Right? Make it hard for heavy armored equipment to come and get you. You have insurgent bases, you have caves, tunnels, right? Now, if you make it hard for armored vehicles to get you, they're going to have to rely upon possibly helicopters and aircraft, right? Well, you have all these shoulder-fired missiles, SAM sites, all set up there in caves and tunnels, right? You also have heavy weapons to hit Chinese forces from the mountains. You have the mountains to support hit-and-run raids, commando raids. You whack their supply ammo dumps or supply convoys, right? You have caches everywhere. Approaches to bases and caches could be booby-trapped and mined and set up for ambushes, right? You make them pay. You make them bleed all along the way. And then you try to sever China's lines of communication, especially coming across the Taiwan Strait. So I believe this is what's typically thought of in defending Taiwan. But I want to focus on the atypical, right? Asymmetric warfare. I don't think Taiwan could do a very good job defending in a conventional way, right? You got to make it as possible. I'm thinking you got to take the fight to China. So you strike high value targets inside China. The first thing I would do is cyber attacks, right? Develop viruses, develop means of hacking into their systems. Maybe get assistance from the CIA or some group that does crap like that. CIA is the world's best at hacking stuff. Cyber attacks should be prepared to attack China's currency, their banking, their oil and gas pipelines. We blew up Russia's oil and gas pipeline back in 1988, I believe. Right? We blew that sucker up. USA did. We can do the same thing. We can whack their electricity grid, whack their transportation, especially any mass transportation, trains and whatever. Commerce, tracking, we can whack that. Major companies, whack their data and accounting systems, make it impossible for them to do business, right? Whack their accounting, accounts with other nations and other companies. Virus software could be developed in cooperation with other nations, for example, USA, CIA. Cyber attacks could be conducted with deniability, all right? So you make it like it's like we accuse Russia. So some Russian cyber criminal group, hacks whatever pipeline in the USA, right? And Russia says, it was some group that we don't control, right? Any money Russia's assisting in this and not directly behind it, right? Well, you do the same thing. You make it deniable, right? And then limited cyber attacks could be conducted as soon as there's any sign of Chinese preparation to invade. So if they start looking like they're building up to invade, you start whacking them with cyber attacks. Say it's these criminal cyber groups demanding a ransom, right? But you're giving them a taste of medicine. That if there's full-on war, it's not going to be, okay, we'll let you go after you pay this ransom. It's going to be, we're going to screw you permanently and not let go. And we're going to hit you far more extensively. You whack everything. All right? So that's a way that Taiwan could whack China on the cheap. That's why it's more effective. Right? And I believe that with actual physical attacks, drones can be very effective. Why? Because they're low tech, right? Taiwan can easily develop the technology for these drones, right? And they're cheap. And when used in swarms, drones are difficult and costly to defend against. Right? It's so much more costly to defend against swarm drone attacks than to develop a swarm drone attack. So what do you want to target with drones? Right? Well, it doesn't have to be drones. I'm thinking a hypersonic missile would be great for this too, but you destroy China's hydroelectric dams, which amount to 17.3% of its total electricity production. That's a big chunk. And it's not just electricity, it's drinking water, it's irrigation, right? It's also power generation. Well, I said it already. So if you look at, here's the map of China's dams. You see they got a whole bunch, they're concentrated around here. And the reason why they're concentrated here, this is all that Tibetan mountains. You know, Mount Everest is part of the Tibetan mountain range, so forth, right? All that stuff, it comes down here. Whatever else is out there, whatever Tibetan mountains. I think anyways. Okay. All right. So China has a lot of dams. Use drones with shaped warheads that fly low to evade radar with multiple guidance systems for redundancy. You have inertial guidance. You have GPS. I mean, all this can be developed cheaply these days. All this is super cheap. Possibly digital scene mapping, area correlation, just like the Tomahawk missile. right? I'm not going to explain that, right? And for terminal attack, you can have visual camera correlated with photo data, right? You fly drones early, you get photo data, you uplink maybe to a satellite, whatever, right? You collect photo data, right? And you upload that data into the memory of a drone, right? And you have a camera. When that camera sees that thing, right, it knows exactly what to go for, where to hit it, right? Now, I think Taiwan should develop or purchase hypersonic missiles to target China's many dams. USA is developing hypersonic missiles, which could be easily modified to target China's dams, right? And you get a hypersonic missile traveling Mach 5, right? You don't even need a warhead. There's so much damn kinetic energy, it's going to obliterate that damn dam. How about that damn dam? All right. Studies must be conducted to determine the downstream impact of dam destruction upon neighboring countries. For example, a lot of these dams here, they control water flow to downstream countries, right? I'm willing to bet that if anything, it could be a benefit. You destroy these dams, it's going to increase the water flow to these countries, right? Okay, so you're looking at countries, that are also dependent upon the Tibetan mountain runoff, right? Southeast Asia, everything in Southeast Asia, from Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, then Thailand, right? The whole Malayan Peninsula, right? And then Burma and Bangladesh, right? They're all dependent upon the rivers coming down from the Tibetan mountains, right? Which China blocks up with these dams. So, honestly, there could be some disruption, there could be damage, but I'm willing to bet that by the time it gets that far downstream, right, it's going to be a benefit, increasing the water supply to those countries, right? Select targets with least disruption of water supply to neighboring countries. But in any event, there should be studies done to see what's going to happen. I'm just guessing right now. Why? This is just a brainstorm. Less than 10 hours I put into this. Okay. So here's a map of some of China's oil and gas pipelines, right? This is another targeted thing, right? Another thing can be targeted with drones. These are thousands of miles long, right? Whether it's oil or whether it's gas, refined products pipeline, all right? This is even more pricey stuff coming in here because it's refined products, right? Right, and this is not all of China. There's a lot of pipelines from Russia which are not being shown here. Gas pipelines coming from the Siberian? I can't remember the name. Well, there's Russian gas pipelines being built in China, right? All right. Okay. So destroy China's oil and gas pipelines that stretch thousands of miles from Central Asia, right? Hey, a lot of these here when it says Central Asia, you're talking about countries that were ex-Soviet republics like Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. All of them have gas and oil to some degree. Turkmenistan has a lot of gas. Kazakhstan has gas and more oil, right? Uzbekistan has gas, right? Then across Western China. Or you know what, even stuff coming from Iran. I don't know if Iran's got pipelines coming to, right? But once it gets inside China territory, you whack it, right? You destroy all the crap they got, right? Now, why is that important? Because you take out energy, you take out a big chunk of their economy. You're whacking their economy in a big time way, right? Simple drone attacks could blow up pipelines every mile or so for hundreds of miles. Man, you can blow it up every quarter mile over hundreds of miles. Send drones. All it takes is a 10-pound Sentex, some super high explosive, high energy, conventional plastique, right? Like that. You blow it up. This could seriously damage a large chunk of China's economy. This is where China's vulnerable. Here's another one. All right, China is developing these long-distance, super high-voltage energy electricity grids. Why? Because they got all this territory out in like the far west plateaus out here. This is barren stuff, right? You're not growing any agriculture out here. these high plateaus. Maybe you got cattle ranching, so forth. You turn this into a big power generation field for solar power, right? But to get that long distance, you need to have these super high voltage things, right, to get any efficiency. And China's developing these million volt high voltage grids, million volt, super high voltage. Well, you whack that, you whack their voltage grid, you start whacking their economy, especially the more dependent they become on this stuff, right? You could take this out with drones. Destroy China's long distance electricity grids, right? What are the ultra high voltage DC, ultra high voltage AC, right? You take it all out, the purple and the orange. You got hydro, coal. I mean, you can even target a nuclear reactor. Well, I don't know. That could be going to, well, it's possible. All right. Sabotage inside China. Target high value military, political, economic infrastructure, right? Right. High cost, high value. But you want to limit, if you're going to do this, you want to limit civilian casualties. Otherwise, the sabotage attacks may be seen as terrorist attacks, making the average Chinese person feel threatened. What you want to do is you always want to separate. You want to separate the people from the government, from supporting the government, right? The last thing you want to do is like these terrorists, these Al Qaeda terrorists, bunch of idiots, right? Right? They have no strategic understanding. What they did is the opposite of what you want to do. When they attacked on 9/11, they forged, total population support behind the government. You want to do the opposite. You don't want to have this terror. You don't want to make the average Chinese person feel, threatened on a daily basis. You want to make them feel they're offended by their damn government by getting into this stupid war, which they got to pay for, and their boys are getting killed. Right? You want to separate the people from the government. Terrorist attacks against the population do the exact opposite. They're going to throw in and say, here's a blank check, carte blanche. Do whatever you need to do to get the bad guys, keep us safe. That's the last thing you want to do. So you don't want to attack the civilian population. Right? Unless, the only time you do that is like in full-on war. Full-on unlimited major war, when you're going after strategic targets, you're basically going after industries, right? And just like in World War II, we're firebombing in Japan, right? Every major Japanese city except for 4 were firebombed to like rubble, right? Destroy their industrial and economic base, right? Which is workforce, includes workforce, but that's full-on war, right? Unlimited war. All right. I don't recommend that for Taiwan because it's just going to throw the people behind the government in supporting the war. Attack China's commerce. Taiwan should double its submarine force and subs, and they should not be used to defend the Taiwan Straits, where they are vulnerable in shallow water. Remember I said less than 200 feet or less of depth. Instead, they should be used to kill China's commerce and oil, liquid natural gas tankers, right? And I give an example. They can buy these Swedish subs. These are really quiet. They may be expensive. I don't know. Maybe a better option would be to buy older, decommissioned Japanese electric boats, right? That's a possibility. What the hell? Hold on here. All right. So you attack China's commerce in distant places around the world where it's hard to defend and is vulnerable, right? For example, in like coal-like attacks. So this ship here with the side blown open is a USS Cole. It's a U.S. warship, right? Which had a speedboat attack, right? You packet it with even more explosive than this, right? It takes a big explosion to really do damage to like a super tanker or to one of those super cargo vessels, whatever, right? LNG may be a different story. If you mess up an LNG ship, and if it jeopardizes the cryogenic stuff, right? Man, you can blow up the damn you can blow up the damn ship with overpressurizing the liquid natural gas tanks. All right, but you know that would be a prime target. Liquid natural gas tankers. Okay, so yeah, you could do that. And instead of having like suicide bombers, believe this was a suicide bomber. You got remote controlled boats. All right, how expensive is that? You could probably buy a speedboat for 50 grand. Right? Maybe more. Maybe 100 grand. Packet full explosive. Pirate-like attacks. If the Somali pirates can do it, why not? Why not special forces trained for this, better armed? Pirate-like attacks on Chinese ships, much better armed than Somali pirates, and not just by boat. It could be an air assault by paratroopers, right? You have combined. You got airborne special forces, right, guys? Jumping out of just a regular commercial skydiving plane, all right? That's the best way to keep it hidden, right? It's not a military plane that would draw attention, right? And these guys jump out of there, right? Skydive, do what are called halo jumps, high altitude jump and low opening, right? You do it at night with night vision so that it's sneaky and you catch it by surprise. And you do it in conjunction with a boat attack. Right? Could be combined with a boat attack using drones. For example, you do this once, China's gonna get onto it. They're gonna start putting security forces upon all their ships. Right? They got a lot of ships, but they can put security forces. Well, this is what you do. You get these guys coming in, all right? And if you think they're detected, and even if they're not detected, you're not sure. You have explosives going around, right? With drones, taking out defensive points, whatever, guard positions. Using, let's say, flechette rounds, shredding people, right? And so forth, right? To make this effective, you combine this with a drone attack. You whack them first, right before these guys come, right? And these guys, are trained to land in circles like within 10 feet diameter, right? They can easily land upon a big ship like this. Here's a super tanker, right? This is 3 football fields long, wider than an aircraft carrier, right? Let's see here. The assault team can blow up engineering plants, disable the ship, or they can scuttle it, right? Sink the damn ship, get off on the boat that's falling behind, right? If they're close to a Chinese port, they could steam into the port to a predetermined GPS coordinate that best blocks the harbor, and then you sink the ship. Calculate how many super tankers must be taken out to cripple China's commerce transportation, right? Now, what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen. China's going to contract out ships from foreign nations to do this, right? Right. So that's how China's going to respond. They're going to contract out tankers from foreign nations, right? Maybe a Kuwaiti tanker, whatever. Saudi tankers. I don't know. You take out anything Chinese though. All China stuff is to be taken out. U.S. Special Forces could help plan these missions, select targets, provide necessary materials. RAND Corporation could even be contracted to develop plans. U.S., UK, and Israel. Those guys are good at like really, dicey missions like this. Israel's good at stuff like this. They can train. UK are good at these like commando stuff, right? This is not far-fetched. This is typical commando stuff. This is what they trained for, stuff like this. Strike high-value Chinese investments throughout the world. For example, China is developing oil and gas production and mineral production facilities around the world. All right. It's going to be vulnerable. All this stuff spread around the world. It's high value. Remember I said, you get all the pipelines and so forth. Well, you go to the source. If it's Chinese investment, Chinese, built plant out there, you blow the sucker up. And you could copy the Iran drone attack on Saudi oil refineries. When was that? That was when Trump was in office, like 2019 or so. They had that Iranian drone attack in retaliation for the general being killed. China has many mining operations in Africa and Latin America. You know what? I'm thinking, here. I seen a YouTube video of drones programmed to sense each other and fly information, spaced so much far apart in wild formations. You ever see like those really good marching bands on the field, how they do these bizarre, I seen drones programmed to do these bizarre maneuvers in 3 dimensions. Changing formation. How hard would it be for them to fly in a line? You take 50 drones each with a 100-pound high explosive, fly them into a tunnel in a straight line, blow them up all simultaneously, take down that tunnel, take down that mine. Something like that. Natural gas facilities in Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. China dumps a lot of money there. China tries to control their damn natural gas. Right? Well, you take out their plants. Drone attacks, swarm attacks. Right? How big a deal are drone swarms? These drones are hard to stop. There's so many damn one of them, right? You take out China's oil and gas pipelines with drones. Care must be taken to not to blow up Russian pipelines in China until they cross the China border. Once inside the China border, right? You don't want to, get Russia lined up with China. You want to divide and conquer. You want to split them out, right? You do not take out. You blow up the pipelines after it crosses the border. That way, China's got to pay for it. Once it crosses the border, right? It's no longer Russian. It's Chinese, right? They pay for it. Too bad if it's blown up in their own territory. It's been delivered. You pay for it. All right. And I'm thinking these drone attacks could be how many millions of semi-truck trailers are there around the world? Right? How are you going to keep track of all these trailers, right? All you got to do is drive a semi-truck, right? And I'm thinking you have 3 rows of drones with foldable wings. What do I have here? I show you drones with foldable wings. I got a picture somewhere. Like aircraft carrier planes with foldable wings. All right. Where is it? I don't have it. Anyways, so you have you can have, let's say, 10, 15 drones per skid here, right? 3 skids lined side by side, stacked too high. That's 6 skids, with 15. What is 6 times 15? All right. That's 90 drones coming in, each with, let's say, a 100-pound warhead or something like that. Man, you could do a lot of damage with that. 90 warheads coming in a swarm with 1 truck. Drive this truck within range, right? Have pre-planned procedures to block off a section of road, all right? Secure it with troops on both sides, right? Lay these things out, right? Launch them off rapidly. Okay. So guerrilla forces constantly blowing up trains and railroads anywhere along the Silk Road, the new Silk Road, right? Right. China, a big initiative by China, economic initiative, is this Belt and Road. Here's the belt that goes through the oceans. Ocean commerce has a lot of ports. China's developing ports all around the world, including one in Greece here, I guess, right? And is that Venice? They got one in Venice there, it looks like, right? Uh, and this is trains here, okay? One goes to Madrid, one goes to up to Britain, right? And this goes up to Denmark, it looks like. Germany, Hamburg, that's Germany, right? Maybe up to Denmark. Denmark is up there, right? Um, okay, it's going around. This is going into, you know, Southeast Asia. There's Malaysia. There's, yeah. So this is like Burma and Bangladesh, right? Um, okay, so the best targets are bridges. You blow up railroad track, they can rebuild that overnight, no problem, right? You blow up a bridge, it may take a long time to rebuild it. Look at this bridge here, high span. Or one example, blow the sucker up at both points, boom, boom, take it out. Maybe you have drones with shaped charges. Maybe you have 15, 20, 30 drones, whatever you need. Engineers can design what exactly they need to blow this up, what type of explosive. I'm thinking shaped charges, right? Each drone has like multiple shaped charges that blows up a section. Say 3 or 4 shaped charges. You take out a section, take it from another direction, take it from another side. You just cut this away, right? And this could take out this could take out the whole damn, New Silk Road for months, if not a year. You see how vulnerable they are, and you can hit them anywhere along the way, thousands of miles long. What do I say here? I think this is like 8 or 9,000 miles long. Attack China's Belt and Road assets around the world, like ports or railroads. Ports, blow up cranes, warehouses, ground transportation infrastructure. I mean, this can be rebuilt relatively fast, right? They could hijack Chinese ships and then scuttle them in precise GPS locations, blowing holes into them, right? Making it hard to repair, right? Not simply just closing, valves and pumping it full of air, refloating it. No, you blow holes in it, right? This would be more difficult this could shut down ports for a longer period of time, right? Diverse attacks around the world could be done on cheap, would force China to disperse large amounts of resources to defend assets scattered all around the world. For example, force China to disperse naval assets around the world. Okay, which would weaken forces directly facing Taiwan. Weapons, conventional. All right. Now I'm not going to go into China's conventional weapons, all right, in great detail because I think it's pointless. I totally admit there's no way Taiwan can match China ship for ship, tank for tank, aircraft for aircraft, artillery for artillery, missile for missile, right? I mean, this is just common sense and common knowledge. Just look at Wikipedia for basics, right? But you're looking at basic things: Air Force, fighters, bombers, helicopters, Navy, ships, submarines, naval aircraft, right? Army, artillery, whatever, air defense systems, electronic warfare intelligence, all this stuff. They got F-16s, they got M1 Abrams, they got these 109 Paladins, this is their own surface air missile, Skybow, and they also have Patriot. These are Patriots. They got U.S. Kid class, which was basically a Spruance class built for export. They have Stinger shoulder-fired SAMs. It's just a small sprinkling sample, right? It's just conventional crap. I will comment on only one conventional weapon system. I think submarines, right? So I talked about this already, right? You don't want to waste Taiwan submarine force trying to defend Taiwan itself. In the vulnerable Taiwan Straits, which are only 200 feet deep, right? Send them off and start whacking their super tankers, their LNG tankers, right? I think an LNG tanker would be ideal for a commando raid, right? All you gotta do is blow up the cryogenic cooling system, right? Man, you're gonna blow unless they relieve pressure and lose all that gas, it's gonna blow up the damn ship, right? And maybe these commando forces can train on how to disable, because these tanks that have pressurized and cooled liquid natural gas. They're going to have overpressure relief valves. If they can block or deactivate, prevent it from opening, you overpressurize a damn relief valve. Or you don't even need to do that, right? They can probably just put explosives on it, just blow the damn thing up. Oil is very difficult to explode, right? It can cause a fire maybe, right? But natural gas will cause a big explosion, right? You blow the whole damn ship up. All right. Okay, so now I mentioned here asymmetric weapons, and I honestly believe that these weapons, right, can be very effective. And but I'm not going to talk about them. You know why? Because the liar scum, what they'll do is they'll shift all focus on one of these and say, he thinks China can be stopped with mortars, and that's all you need. They'll make some stupid lying thing like that. That's going to be their attack. And people are not going to know what I said. They'll know nothing of what I said. They'll like, oh yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I can understand that. That's crazy. I'm not saying it. I never said it. That's an example of the type of crap they pass. That's what's passed in social retard reality. Stuff like that. So I'm thinking limpet mines. These can be highly effective. I'm not going to even talk about this. Right? I explained this all before. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit. All right. Here's some example. Remember I said that there's no way Taiwan can match China toe-to-toe, ship for ship. They can't go toe-to-toe with China in ships in the Taiwan Strait, right? But another way around it is you have these limpet mines. All right? These limpet mines are basically torpedoes that are tethered to the ocean bottom, and it's only 200 feet deep, right? You don't need a very long tether, right? They can be sitting on the bottom, right? Anchored to the bottom, and they listen to the sound of recorded Chinese signature sounds of their ships, right? So when Chinese ships go out to do an exercise, you lay out around them microphones that record the signals and transmit it, right? You record the exact sound signatures of their ships, whatever class of ships. USA was so good that we could tell specific submarines within a class. We can listen to like Soviet subs and know, oh, that's the so-and-so class from the Alpha subclass. Exactly which submarine from that class, right? So you program that in. When they hear that sound signature, they're activated and they attack the ship, right? So they can be dropped by ship, dropped by sub, dropped by air, right? And they attack ships coming in. And you can even have them communicate with each other to designate who's going to attack which ship. So you don't have all your weapons going to one ship, right? They designate, they communicate with each other and designate which torpedo is going to go after which ship, right? Something like that, all right? It's probably not that hard to develop software for this. I mean, college kids could probably do that. Some kids at MIT or something, Passive sonar, yeah. And then it goes active. So passive sonar, and then it goes active, and then you have communication, right? USA had this stuff since when? The 70s? The Mark 60 Captor encapsulated torpedo system, all right? And you lay hundreds, if not thousands of these, right, in front of the oncoming Chinese fleet. And what's the purpose? To make them drown before they get to the beaches. All the Chinese soldiers drowning. Well, that's going to be popular in China. All the boys dying, drowning. Their only child. People are going to get pissed off. Rapidly deployable mines that can be concentrated around in front of oncoming amphibious forces, right? Have the means of rapidly deploying them, right? Or on the beaches, right? you know, I don't know. I don't know Taiwan's beaches. I don't know the topography, right? What's optimal, right? They do. They know where to lay these things, right? And if there's multiple choices, well, they can have it so once it is pretty clear where China's committed to landing, you lay it right in front of them as they're coming in. You concentrate your forces there. This will increase your kill probability with limited resources, right? It can be airdropped or dropped with high-speed boats, right? Large numbers of high-speed drones, swarm attacks, all right? So I'm looking at over 400 miles an hour, over 400-pound warheads. You have 2,000 drones, right? These can be gotten for cheap. Folded wings. Oh, this is where I have the folded wings. All right, so folded wings, you can have these like packed in the mountains. Remember I showed you the mountains of Taiwan, right? You have a mountain cave, right? And you pack tons of these in there. Launch them out. You can launch them out rapidly, right? Fly in big swarms. Hard to shoot all down, right? Reason why I say that is you look at a typical surface combatant ship. All right, let's say it's got an anti-air defensive system. All right, now USA's best radar system is the Aegis system, Spy One, and it can track 100 targets, but it can only engage 24 at the same time, right? And plus your limited missiles. A typical ship. Let me look up real quick how like a Burke class destroyer. All right, it could probably hold maybe less than 100 missiles. Vertical launch missiles. How many missiles? How many missiles does a Burke class destroyer have? 56 cruise missiles. All right. Well, it's got other missiles. It's got surface to air. So, as I recall, they're roughly around 100 missiles, typically. Oh, minimum of 96 missiles. That's Burke class. Minimum of 96. At least 96 missiles. So around 100. Okay. What does that mean? You got a mix of missiles. You got land attack missiles, right? Maybe you got some ASROC anti-submarine missiles, right? The rest are probably surface to air. So maybe you got 50, maybe you got 60 surface air missiles max, right? You send each boat. You send 2,000 drones, right? It's going to overwhelm their defenses, and you could do it for cheap. So I calculated if you can make these in large quantities at $50,000 per unit, all right, which is feasible, I believe, all right, for the cost of two F-16s, only two F-16 fighter planes, right, you could buy 2,600 drones. Now, what's going to be harder to stop? Two F-16s or 2,600 drones coming in a swarm? Right? That's what I'm saying. Asymmetric weapons could be a problem. Right? I'm sure they'd be a problem to us. That's probably why we're going to high-powered lasers. So it's got to get past. They got to get past their missiles. They also got to get past their close-in weapon systems, right? Right. But I'm telling you, with thousands of drones, it's going to be hard to stop them. Plus, they're being fired in conjunction with your, more major weapons, harpoon missiles, tomahawk missiles, all right? Aircraft coming in. You have a combined assault. You have surface ships coming in, even firing their guns, right? Surface ships, whatever. You get a combined attack. You got so many targets and make it hard. The drones will complicate things, right? Don't laugh at this. And I gave you the major ways. The major ways are going after the major assets. This is just one area, right? All right. And here's another example. F-16s are high cost. Plus, F-16 costs $8,278 to operate for 1 hour. 1 hour operation. That's cheap for a plane. You know, F-35s are somewhere like $25,000 to operate for 1 hour. Right? They're expensive as hell. All right. Maintenance and repair costs for aircraft. Pilot training. So drones are a lot cheaper. Drones you pack up and, you know. Drones have next to no operating cost. All right. 2 F-16s. Easier to shoot down than 2,600 high-speed drones. Thousands of drones will overwhelm electronic sensors and targeting systems and weapon systems, right? That many drones will deplete defensive missiles fast. Plus, it's in combination with other weapon systems. These enhance those other weapon systems by providing so many targets. So this is what the liars are going to attack. They're going to say, he think China can stop, or Taiwan can stop China with mortars. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this is another layer of weapons that are asymmetric, which can be highly effective, right? And can be acquired on the cheap. 120 millimeter mortar rounds, right? Why are they effective? You can make tons of these. You can have literally hundreds and hundreds of mortar teams on the beach. Every beach can have 300 mortar teams, right? You can move these rapidly to where they're needed. Airlift them fast, right? I bet you a Black Hawk helicopter can carry probably 2 weapons teams, mortar teams, right? You got a larger helicopter like CH-53. I bet you they can carry like 6 or 7 or 8. Who knows? CH-46 probably maybe up to a dozen. Who knows? All right. Okay. They're already okay. So there are already GPS guided mortar rounds, right? GPS guided mortar round. Here's an example of GPS guided mortar round. There's a GPS guided mortar round. There's a GPS guided mortar round. This is probably fin controlled. This is probably these. I have these little rocket jets on the sides to control, you know, the direction of this mortar, right? Right. Now they're GPS. The GPS guided system up here. All you gotta do is change this for a laser. Got it. You got the control system already. It's a simple fix, right? Now you got laser guided. You get lasers flying over the beaches, right? Now the Chinese amphibs, Chinese are building a lot of amphibs, but to get on land, they got to release from the back of these landing craft, right? These landing craft are wide open. They're gonna be vulnerable, right? Just plop a mortar round right, laze it with a drone. That mortar round's gonna go right to it, right? You just got to make it sure that you get high enough altitude, high enough arc, so it has time to acquire the laser before it hits, right? Just pop it high in the air. HE rounds it can be used for landing craft. You can have flechette rounds to mow down troops as soon as they hit the beach, right? This is a flechette round, 5,000 steel darts in a 105 round. So this is smaller. This is smaller than a 120. 5,000 darts in a 105. You know, I'll tell you a true story, right? Written by Medal of Honor winner, a guy named Miller from Vietnam War. During the Tet Offensive, his outpost, small outpost, was attacked by a full battalion, right? What is that? That's 700 soldiers, right? A battalion of 700 soldiers. 700 soldiers come. He calls in fire support. 355 millimeter rounds, slightly bigger than these. Only 3 of them came in, right? When these go out, they spray out in a pattern, and it knocks down everything, right? They're airburst, and you spray out these darts. 3 rounds is all it took to stop this whole battalion dead in its track. Whoever knocking down a lot of them, but whoever was left standing, they got the hell out of there. Now you get 300 mortar teams, right? Plop, plop, plop. Airburst, airspurt. You're gonna mow down everything. And here's the thing. When China's trying to take out defensive stuff, they're gonna try to take out the major artillery, the paladins. They're gonna try to take out any major rocket artillery, right? Things like that. They're going to try to take out air defense, right? They're not going to get 300 mortar teams. You're going to have still 100 survive, and they're just going to lay down, saturated fire. Laser guided. All right, I mean, that's just one weapon system. It's cheap. It's doable. It's hard to get them all. It's something Taiwan can afford. So what's going to happen is this. The liar shits, right, know that the masses will retain none of all that I've said. So they'll focus on one little thing. They'll say, he thinks a mortar can stop China. That's what they're going to say. And they're going to laugh at this. They're idiots, don't understand how effective they can be. Force development for these phases: conventional forces, insurgent forces. You want guerrilla forces, urban guerrilla, mountain guerrilla, pre-established fight plans for both urban and mountain guerrilla warfare. You want to have them trained in ambush tactics, trained in IEDs, trained in sabotage, right? Partisan forces for intelligence and sabotage, right? You want to draw these guys from ex-military, hopefully, right? But also for any inspired volunteers. You get a lot of women that are going to be highly effective, right? Man, plus women are less suspected, You could even use kids. Civilians that blend into the occupied population, establish and train tactics and communication, set up supply routes, all right? Sabotage forces inside China, take the fight to China's homeland, levels of major power assistance, direct war with China, proxy war, support where you have intelligence advisors, weapons, equipment, logistical support, external base support. I'm thinking it's possible you can use Okinawa, for example. Let's say China sees and controls all of Taiwanese airfields, right? Well, the Taiwanese Air Force can relocate to Okinawa, right? There's a U.S. air base there at Kadena, right? Yeah, like just dare China to attack a U.S. Air Force base. It'd be just like World War I, World War II, World War I, USA produced more munitions than Britain and France combined on the Western Front. USA was the industrial powerhouse for that war. And they said, Germany, you can't attack any of our ships. And for 3 years, Germany did not, because they didn't want to fight the USA. When they finally got desperate in April 1917, they started unrestricted submarine warfare. But for 3 years, they did not touch our ships. And we're supplying more weapons than the British and French are supplying for themselves. Right? Go ahead, dare you. Right? See what happens. And World War II is the same way. Lend-Lease. Right? Hitler chastised his submarine commanders who were like super war heroes, right? You idiots, right? Don't you know this is exactly how USA got in the war with us in World War I? Don't be attacking them. I haven't thought this through, so the idiot retard Lars will make a Banshee scream, berserko, wacko, head on fire, retard attack, right? I mean, that's what they're gonna do. Right? Oh, that's crazy. Use Okinawa. That's crazy. Why? That's crazy. They're not going to explain why. Right? I mean, I haven't thought it through. They're not going to think it through. Right? They're just going to attack. And they make a big wave. And no one's going to know jack. No one's going to understand. If you make it into a joke, the joke dominates. That's what's real. That's as much as what people understand. I understand funny joke. All right, so a key is to make sure China knows they're going to be super costly. You attack the commerce, you attack the overseas investments around the world, you attack the overseas transportation infrastructure around the world, you attack the homeland, their dams, pipelines, electrical grid, transportation, currency, banking. You whack their economy in every damn way. right? You hit them with sanctions. It won't be a quick over and done war, but long drawn out with multiple phases, right? Falling back here and there, right? I told you make them bleed all along the way. And then you make them bleed even if they win the war. With exile groups, continuing attacks around the world. You make sure a lot of Chinese are killed. And remember, they're only childs, right? They're only boys going off to war. All right? Why? Because that was Chinese policy. Little to gain with slash and burn retreat. You leave nothing behind for them. Right? You just make sure it's costly. You leave them with a big bill for reconstruction. Now, long term, if they take it, it's going to be a moneymaker, right? They get Taiwan back on its feet. But for maybe up to a decade, it's going to cost money to rebuild it. Conclusion: I openly and fully admit that this is not a serious analysis. I spent less than 10 hours developing this. That's like one long day. It's spread out, but I did a little bit here and there, right? Adding up the hours is like less than 10 hours. I didn't want to do this. It was like pulling teeth. I did no research, really. I only brainstormed ideas. Add it all up, that means there's nothing to attack. But that the liars are going to make a desperate, pathetic attack, right? Making a massive, dumbass wave attack, given that the masses retained exactly zero of what I just taught. Nothing retained, nothing in their heads. Just shift focus, twist and distort what I say on one little point. Shift all focus onto that and say, see, it's all crap. Right? The liars will do a distorted single point attack one thing out of hundreds. Because they believe it's most vulnerable. They can manipulate some stupid, distorted attack. And then they'll twist and distort what I say. And they'll attack their own, simple, stupid distortion in a 10-second blurb that is so damn simple any fourth grader can understand it by reading a sentence or two. It's crazy, it's stupid. And it works. They do this thousands of times. And that becomes a sum total of mass social reality, which is retard reality. Key concept, you want to have deterrence. You whack the cost-benefit analysis. Make it so costly, make it no benefit. It's going to cost them in so many ways around the world, not just in Taiwan, throughout their country, in their vulnerable areas. Way out in the western plateaus, pipelines blowing up, power grids blowing up. You get allies, you make treaties, you get sanctions prepared. Ensure the war is going to be long drawn out, right? Bloody proxy war, bleed them dry. Attack their vulnerabilities worldwide, their vital assets around the world and inside the country. Kill their economy. I mean, just with hacking alone. Asymmetric warfare. Taiwan cannot match China in conventional weapons and manpower. Taiwan must make asymmetric attacks upon China's high-value, vulnerable targets around the world. But that makes it easier because it's hard to protect it everywhere. Taiwan must supplement its conventional forces with asymmetrical weapons. Key idea, mass numbers, cheap, they're guided, right? Saturation of defenses. Used in combination with combinations with major weapon systems, combined attack. I didn't emphasize the conventional weapons. So the liar is going to say he thinks they don't need conventional weapons. I'm not saying that. That's exactly how they're going to lie. I did not at all neglect conventional defensive weapons. I said they would never be sufficient to defeat China, especially at China's high rate of weapons construction. China is building ships faster than any nation in the world. I intelligently recognize that Taiwan cannot rely upon them because China's superior industrial base and economic base, right? I emphasize asymmetric weapons because Taiwan's inability to match China's conventional weapons makes them essential. They are completely overlooked by most people, right? If designed intelligently, they can be highly effective for cheap. Taiwan can afford it. It is something Taiwan can afford. It is only a supplement. They are only supplements. But the liar scum will make BS attacks. Duh, he think a normal weapon. He think only these crazy weapons could work. All right, so that's pretty much it. I think I wrapped it up. All right. So that's my 10-hour brainstorming of how to stop China from attacking Taiwan. It's very comprehensive. I know people are not going to retain a single thing. All right. But that's why it's going to be attacked, because no one knows anything. And the liar scum are going to make up some crap and say, that's what he said. You know, just say, yeah, that is crazy. I can understand that because any fourth grader can understand that.